Okay, we are live.
Yeah, how's it going?
I feel like it's the same entry every time. We are live and we have a slight hello.
First of all, it's because you always open it, but also this time I didn't do my hands. Usually I do some sort of hand motion for anybody
Like a
that's
jazz
actually watching.
hands.
Always. Or spirit fingers for people who are young enough to watch Bring It On. Or old enough, I guess I should say. How are you doing?
Things are going well. There's a good amount to talk about, a lot going on. I've been listening to some feedback. We've both been listening to a lot of different feedback, which we appreciate, obviously. And not to reveal too much, but we do hope to start bringing on a couple of guests within the next coming week, 2 weeks. Some surprises, some people to talk to, family, friends. That's family/friends, not family friends. Maybe they are family friends. But that's all to come.
That's the surprise.
That's the surprise. So that's what to come. So stay tuned for that.
I think everyone who just listens to that is like so confused as to what's going to be happening. But trust us.
Yeah,
God, when it happens,
it will be good. It will be good. So something that I did want to talk about, because I was when me and Sheldon were speaking beforehand, I wanted to mention this because we were speaking a little bit about the Andrew Tate's situation with him being in prison. And Alec Baldwin, who obviously his whole situation with the arrest, the two people that were killed, and that whole crazy thing.
No, hold on. There's only one person that was killed. Two people were shot. Only one was killed.
Only one person died. Never mind. He didn't kill two people. Geez, we're just spreading between you spreading misinformation about Ron DeSantis and me ruining Alec Baldwin's career.
You might as well call us Fox News at this point, just making shit up as we go along.
Exactly. But something that I did think was that bothers me a little bit, because I don't like Andrew Tate. I think he's a pretty terrible person to be exposed to the public and to children as much as he is. There's value in certain things he says. There's also value in a lot of things that a lot of people say. It doesn't mean that they themselves are good people or that we should allow them to spread their stuff, to the masses. At the same time, it's interesting how when it comes to people that we like or are portrayed as good people in the media, it's much easier for us to say, innocent until proven guilty. But when it's people that are obviously looked at by the mainstream media as bad, Andrew Tate being one of them, everyone assumes he's guilty, even though there is yet to be any evidence of him doing anything wrong, which I do think is funny. Now, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. I'm not assuming he is guilty. I just think it's interesting that we tend to sort of only apply that idea of, innocent until proven guilty when it's with people that we would like to be innocent,
So it's funny. I totally agree. I feel like, in America, that's the thing. You're innocent until proven guilty. And I feel like it's only something that people really harp on when they decide. And it's oftentimes with politics, people in politics, if someone who's very Republican is, on, for example, Trump with his whole documents and everything, people on the left and Democrats and liberals are attacking the fact that, oh my God, all these documents, legal documents, blah, blah, blah. And then when it comes from the other side and Biden has all these classified documents, then it's the other side that's going. And I feel like people if you're on that political side, or if you like that person, then you're going to stand by them no matter what. But when it's someone you don't like with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial and everything, people immediately took a side. Everyone was taking a side. I mean, it was also kind of because of the case, but in the beginning of it, people didn't know all the details and they were kind of just picking a side. So people want to believe who they want to believe. It's like when Bill Cosby was accused back in the day of doing inappropriate stuff, no one wanted to believe it. Nobody wanted to believe it. Nowadays, it's known. He's been to jail already at certain points, got out of it, which is ridiculous. But nowadays, now that it's oh, me too, that's when people are oh yeah, he's for sure guilty, even before the trial even happened. Or but then in other hands, with Michael Jackson, he's a pop icon. His music is iconic because he was never found guilty. So it's acceptable. But, how would it have worked nowadays with cancel culture? Cancel culture is such a prevalent thing. People are canceled for the smallest thing. Would a legend like Michael Jackson have even made it nowadays?
No
with
way.
This culture, right? And even
he
though
he was
found not guilty, and that's not my opinion, I think we touched upon this in the previous episode, but it's just we're in a different time where people are what's popular or what's cancelable. Immediately, people are not going to let you be innocent until proven guilty. That's not how cancel culture works. So yeah, like you said, when it works in people's favor, that's when they'll go with the whole, guilty until proven innocent, except for when it doesn't work in their favor and they want to see someone fall.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I mean, listen, we all have our own teams. Everyone has their own teams, and then they'll stick by until. Well, I guess we'll see what happens if he is guilty or not. I mean, I don't think they have any evidence yet. I wonder. I am curious because you mentioned Biden also, and you mentioned them. The hypocrisy, and when they were rating Trump's thing, the Republicans are all freaking out, and now when they're rating Biden's thing, all the Democrats are calling all the Republicans hypocrites. It is. I am curious what kind of documents they have there, if they're going to really be anything substantial, because I feel like what's Joe Biden himself going to take? A bottle of Advil.
And it's old stuff too. I mean, I think a lot of it is the media uproar of it all and trying to make it like a ooh thing. But the big difference though, like because it is like, oh, why the other side? But the big difference in Joe Biden versus Trump is that when they wanted to search his homes, he willingly allowed them to without there was no back and forth. As opposed to Trump, who literally was like on his hands and knees, like not letting them in, kind of thing.
Right, but did they end up coming away with anything from Trump that was substantial?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
If they did, wouldn't we know about it? So maybe that's why he was so adamant against it, because why would you do it if you don't rated?
I think he just like argues with everything. They would have been like, you know what, Trump, we're not going to raid your house. They would be like, oh no, totally raid my house, totally, like whatever they're going to say, he's going to be like, no, the opposite.
They raided my house. They said it was the cleanest house they have ever raided.
They've never raided such a house in their lives. It's the biggest.
I've been raided the most. Have you ever seen the video? This is unreal. It's like a compilation. It's probably 10 minutes long of all the things that Trump is the best at, and is unreal. Nobody loves women more than me. Nobody, and then it goes to nobody has done more for Black Americans than I have. And then it's nobody cares about veterans. No one's working for veterans like I'm working for the veterans. It's so funny.
He's working for them veterans all day, all night.
Right. No one's doing anything to anyone the way that Donald Trump is doing.
It's just, it's like, it's comical because I'm saying it, obviously, people always talk about his business and with bankruptcies and all these different things, but regardless, you can't just be a complete dumbass and go through business like that and still builds up stuff. Even people who are, even Elon Musk, all these big time people who are huge, they've definitely been through failed businesses in the past or failed ventures in the past. Everyone goes through it when you're an entrepreneur like that and you're constantly hustling and trying to make it to the top. Some things work out, some things don't. So, that's his case. I'm not saying he's a Mason businessman, but he was making a lot of money at a time. So it's like, at this point, is it the fact that maybe he's getting older, so he's a little bit more senile? Or is he genuinely in on this joke behind the scenes and is he just feeding off of that? Or it's a very interesting thing because half the things he does sounds like an SNL skit. It doesn't sound like real life. Watching Alec Baldwin, who we'll get into soon, portray him on SNL, you literally can't even tell the difference between the real one and the old one. It's like when Tina Fey played Sarah Palin in an SNL skit. She did an interview with Meredith Vieira, Sarah Palin, and then in the SNL skit, they even literally used her exact responses from the interview because they were just so comical and outrageous.
Right.
It's like when I watch the guy or see the guy, I'm just like, what is it? What is it?
Could you imagine if Donald Trump went on SNL now and did a skit about Alec Baldwin?
Oh my God.
It'd be great payback though.
Yeah.
That whole situation is a little bit crazy to me because I understand obviously I don't know every detail of the case. It just seems like, as far as he knew, why would there I don't even understand why there would be live ammunition on the set of a movie.
There should have never been. But the thing is, and that's the thing I don't understand, is you have an armorer on set for this exact reason. Right. So the fact that something like this even happened, it's a tragedy. And nothing that's going to come out of this is ever going to bring Helene Hutchins, I believe her name was, her life back. So it's a tragedy all around. I'm sure Alec Baldwin is scarred from when it actually happened.
Can't even imagine.
I can't imagine you can move forward from that. But you have an armorer on set for this reason. This is you're on payroll. This is your whole thing. This is what you deal with. I worked as a makeup artist full time. I'm doing their makeup. They're not responsible if their eyeliner smudges. Not that that's in any way comparable to guns, and I don't want to, make it sound like that. Right. I don't mean it like that. No, but I'm saying it's like that. How could you say that he is liable for involuntary manslaughter when this is the whole, and a lot of these people on the news that were talking about the fact that he's not just an actor, he's also the producer. Right. But you hire these people for this exact reason, and they're supposed to be the ones who are responsible for it.
Right. I think it comes down to the fact that, it doesn't make a difference who's who or who's holding the gun. You have to treat every weapon as if it's loaded, as if it's ready with live ammunition. And I guess that was probably what it came down to. But is he going to serve jail time, though?
If he could face up to 5 years, I believe. Yeah, but I just can't imagine. I wonder how it's going to play out. I just feel like it's because on one hand, I feel like they want to send out a clear message. There's been accidents and such before, like Bruce Lee's son, who was in a movie like The Crows or something. And there was a scene, I think they even kept the actual scene where he was shot with, it was like a bullet fragment was stuck in the gun. So even though they were blanks, when it shot, the bullet fragment shot out, and he actually ends up dying. And I believe they kept this in the movie because it was so real, because it was. So who would have thought something like this could happen, nowadays? But this is literally why you have these kinds of things on set. Even nowadays, because we're living in times where it's about consent and all this stuff, they have sexual coordinators and intimacy, managers on sets to make sure everyone is okay and comfortable in what they have to do. And they're not even having real sex on set, but it's to make sure everyone's okay and comfortable. You have these people on payroll for a reason. If you're a director of a movie, you hire people, and those people are what you're responsible for, but their mistakes, I just feel like you hire someone for the reason. And it seems like this girl who was the armor should be the one who's the only one who's being accused of involuntary manslaughter. I think Alec Baldwin going through that experience is, I mean, I don't want to say what the court says, but I feel like that's punishment enough.
That's exactly what I thought the first time I heard the story. Is I can't imagine in any scenario something that really seems like it's almost out of your control, but ultimately you're unfortunately the messenger. Obviously you probably could have done a little bit more, but to kill someone unintentionally has got to destroy you.
Like that picture that went out right after it happened, and he was in the distance on the phone with his wife, bawling his eyes out, and that wasn't a staged photo. It was a paparazzi photo, and it's just never to take away from her family and the fact that they lost a loved one, all of her friends and family. I can't even imagine what they're going through. Sure, no one on that set, no one making that movie can imagine what they're going through. But it's not by him, obviously when something happens, you want to have someone, to be held accountable for it. And I feel like the girl who was the armor definitely should be held accountable. And I understand they want justice, and they 1,000% deserve justice, whatever form that comes in. I just don't think for him personally, I can't see how this is going to be helpful for the family, and I can't imagine how this is going to be helpful for him. And he has a
prison makes no sense to me. Prison makes no sense to me. I don't understand what that would do for anybody.
So if he has another, maybe they'll send him to community service, but when people should go to jail or prison. Oh, my dog and kid are fighting. When people go to jail or prison, it's you would hope, even though the American prison system is not good and it's not really about reforming people,
to say the least.
It's about keeping them in. It's about being reformed. I don't think if the guy felt like he did nothing wrong, and the interview he did with George Stephanopoulos, and he talked about the whole situation, and it's not like he was this wasn't my fault. It was that girl's fault. It was not like that at all. That would be a much more different situation. I don't think there's anything that he's going to learn a lesson from, or I think that he's pretty damaged from this. For sure. In a different way than her family is, but it's still damage.
For sure. I guess we'll see how it plays out. But, it's such a crazy situation. But on a more positive note, and slightly related to movies, I did recently see for the first time.
Are you
I
gonna
don't
see
know the last
Avatar?
time I saw Avatar.
Oh
I
my
haven't seen a
God.
movie. Hold on. I haven't seen a movie in theaters in years, and I haven't seen a
Me
3D
too.
movie. I don't think I've seen a 3D movie since the first one.
Me too, I think. Oh my God. Legit.
But it was visually pleasing. The plot was empty and had a lot of holes in it. And it was a lot of nothing happening for 3 hours.
Did you see the first one?
Yeah.
So, like, that's literally what it was. But I heard this one had a little bit more of a storyline.
No, if anything, the opposite.
Really? Because I've heard from so many of my friends who've watched it. One of my coworkers, she just brought it up yesterday. She's like, have all of you seen Avatar? Like, everyone's been building stuff and talking about it. And, you know, I love James Cameron. I think he's amazing. I'm still obsessed with Titanic. Like, obsessed. It's still, like, the only movie that can make me cry. And I've seen it a million times, and I will still cry every single time. And I love him. I think, you know, when I saw the original Avatar, I thought visually it was stunning for its time. Even nowadays, it really holds up. It, you know, it took a long time to even make the movie because he was beyond what the technology was capable of at the time.
I remember that whole thing.
You know, yeah. So what they do, the art of it, the CGI, and, you know, from a technical standpoint, it's incredible. I haven't seen this new one. I don't really have an interest. I haven't been to the movie theater also in a long time. I do like movies from the comfort of my own home. It's really hard for me to just sit for like 3 hours in a theater watching this movie. I could appreciate it. I would like, you know, if someone sent me the abbreviated version, I'd love to see it. I like 3 hours is just, I can't sit through 3 hours of really anything.
Surprisingly, it felt like it went by relatively quickly, but at least for me, maybe because it was visually pleasing and I enjoyed that. The plot was definitely, there's a lot of parts and I was like, what? And my wife was like, this doesn't really make sense. But I feel like also there haven't been a lot of like solid movies as much like per year as there used to be. It like used to be like you had like a few really great movies, and now it's like maybe one or two. There is another movie coming out in a month or two. Sorry, then I'll let you go. Coming out in like a month or two. Or in July, called Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan, who's incredible, who did it Interstellar, and he's the greatest. With Cillian Murphy, who is like the scientist who I love. He plays. He's in the Peaky Blinders.
Oh yeah,
Thomas Shelby. So he plays this scientist. I think it's about the development of a nuclear bomb. I'm pretty sure they actually set off like a small version of a real bomb in real life for the. I watched like a behind the scenes, but it looks so good, and it's just rare. You don't come by. A lot of times they're just like, it feels like they're like regurgitating old movies or making live action movies out of animated, which is the worst thing you can do. I feel like it destroys all those movies, like Aladdin. Now they're doing The Little Mermaid and Lion King.
Yeah, well, first of all, Disney is literally just all about making money. And when we were younger, that's when Disney Channel was like at its peak with like Lizzie McGuire and That's a Raven. And even when it was like Hannah Montana and it was just a Waverly Place in those days, no kids are watching them anymore. Like those channels are not getting the viewership that they used to. Everyone's on their iPads or, you know, or on TikTok or this or that or YouTube even. Like people are not watching shows like they used to. Disney's just buying out companies left and right. They're trying to make money as much as they can. They've always been like that. You know, literally everything's so magical and amazing because they just want all your money. So they appeal to kids extremely well. Their marketing is incredible. And it's just like they're just really trying to, you know, milk everything for all it's worth. Every single movie. There's been so many Pinocchios. They were licensed like IP to so many people this past year. There's been 3 Pinocchio renditions in the past year. Like the live action like Lion King. Like, I didn't even know, like, you know, I feel like I'm in my own world. So, like, when it came out, I was like, oh, my God. And then I watched it. I was like, it's starting. I'm like, wait a minute. Hope you don't have that COVID. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this is CGI, though. And then I was like, why was this called live action? And then I thought, okay, maybe, like, they were filming in Africa and then they just had you know, CGI. I had no idea. I'm like, this isn't live action. And nothing was interesting. And I love Beyonce. The Can You Feel the Love Tonight? No one does better than the Elton John original. There's certain movies that just shouldn't be touched and should be kept for its own. But like, if they did a half decent job, maybe, but like, there was just no purpose. And everything's just a remake, a reboot, everything. There's no creativity, but also it's kind of our fault too, because like we demand things so instantaneous because actually it's kind of our fault, but it's also the technology world. It's kind of like a back and forth ping pong game because everything is so instantaneous nowadays and we, you know, want things so fast. Like Marvel movies are coming out every 5 seconds. How are these people? having enough like hours in the day to put all that work in for all the CGI and everything. They're overworked. Like it's crazy. So they're constantly just trying to pump things out. So whatever is going to make them the money, like there's not a lot of movies nowadays where like that are different or they're taking risks or their plot is just so crazy because it's a risk. So it's not guaranteed to make money.
Right.
Like there's a lot of movies that they know are going to be stupid. They don't even put a lot of money into it, but they know that that's what's going to make the money. So, nostalgia is a lot of money.
Where people are much more into shows now because they love just like binge watching tons of shows and like I don't know, people have so much time.
That's
on their
what I
hands.
like. It's small bits. It's small bits because the 3-hour movie sitting straight I can't do. Like when I'm watching a show, in between I could do laundry, I could wash dishes, I could walk my dog, I could do the stuff. I can't do that in movie theater.
Right. No one wants to sit still anymore. They want quick short form content. That's why TikTok.
I've always been ADD, so everyone's just trying to like follow my lead these days. It's like keep up with me, people. I've always been ADD.
Right. Organic short form content is the king right now. TikTok ads, Instagram
and yet
ads.
Quibi failed miserably.
What's Quibi?
Exactly.
Was that like an early version of one of these?
Quibi was an app. They got top actors, had all these original shows and everything, and each episode was only like 5 or 10 minutes or something.
I hear you, Quibi.
And they put so much money into it, had so many investors, and they failed.
1.75 billion.
And they failed miserably because it was all short form content. It was cute and everything like that. But I remember downloading it for free. You got like a 1-month trial, then a 3-month trial for free. But you couldn't stream it to your TV or any other device. It was only on your phone. So it's like if you're not a commuter on your phone all day, it's not applicable at all. And
so
then also people consume content for free on YouTube and TikTok and all these things. So why would they pay a membership fee every month for short content? And then when they even went down, they blamed the pandemic for their failure, which is kind of ironic because every other streaming service had their revenue increased. So it was kind of like a really bad excuse. It's like, the pandemic, like that works for a lot of us. No, not for a streaming television service in your home where you literally don't go anywhere. That's legit what people were doing.
Yeah, on the Wikipedia page, literally the opening thing is what Quibi was a short-lived American short-form streaming platform. Generated content for viewing on mobile devices. That's so interesting. I guess it was a little bit ahead of its time, but it just didn't.
It was just like
execute properly.
Exactly, that's what it was. It was all about the execution. I think it's like when people are finally like related to Gen Z, but they didn't do their research like fully, so they just thought, okay, we'll pay a crap ton of money for big time names, and people are going to want it.
Right.
Like that doesn't always work, except for Disney.
It's interesting because that seems like what's that company? They have a website. Is it Masterclass?
Yeah.
Where they have like every person who's the elite in their industry give you like the secrets.
Meaning the celebrity elite. So like
no, but
whoever's going to be.
They'll have they have Steph Curry for basketball. They'll have Hans Zimmer for composing and Gordon Ramsay and
the celebrities of the world, exactly.
Right, but they're still Gordon Ramsay's a phenomenal chef, you know.
Oh no, all of them are incredible. But it's not like they're necessarily the top one in the world. It's the fact that they're also they're names that people know. Like Christina Aguilera is an incredible singer. There's also other incredible singers, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston. I mean, she's dead, but like there's other incredible singers. But she's like she does a whole master class. But I think it's an incredible platform. I'm just like, how much time do people have? It's like Skillshare. Skillshare seems amazing and incredible. I don't have time to like sit on my computer and learn new hobbies. I wish I had time for hobbies. When I'm on these dating apps, and it's like, what are your hobbies? And I'm sitting there like drinking wine and watching Netflix. I don't know if I should put that on my profile. That's probably why I'm still single. I don't know what I have nowadays for like.
I used to always think about that. Yeah, like what are my hobbies?
Right, it's really bad. Like, what do I do? Oh, I love doing arts and crafts in my downtime. I do wood shopping. Like, what the hell do you think I do with my life? I don't have time.
I would love to do wood shopping. I did always want to get into a little bit of wood shopping. Wood shopping?
Shopping.
Woodworking. Like, why am I saying wood shopping?
Because I said that, but I'm pretty sure wood shopping is a word.
It's woodworking. It's not. It's wood shopping is when you go to Home Depot to pick up some 2x4s.
Okay, the meaning of wood shop is a shop in which woodworking is canceled. Oh no, it's carried on. It's canceled. Yeah, I would get into wood shopping.
I would get into woodworking. These websites are interesting, like Skillshare and Masterclass. I can't imagine you really getting so much of it. I can't, like when they
are you kidding me? I see like Christina Aguilera now And I cook like Gordon Ramsay, so don't even.
Right. So like they're not like, what do you think Gordon Ramsay's is going to reveal like all that he's learned in your short course that you purchased on this website? Like what's the point?
And he can reveal all he knows. That doesn't give you the talent. That's the big difference. You can learn all the vocal techniques you want, and you could practice day and night. If you don't have a good sounding voice, you can improve your voice for sure. You're not turning into Christina Aguilera. You're not turning into Gordon Ramsay. Sorry. Don't sue me, masterclass. I'm sure they're amazing classes. And so, I mean, unless people don't have those expectations, maybe they are just looking to improve. They're looking to improve their skills in cooking. They're looking to improve their skills in singing. They're not expected to turn into that person. Then I think it could be a great,
And then you could do chess too. They might have Magnus Carlsen. You could learn from a chess grandmaster.
It's been my lifelong dream, actually. I'm so excited.
Or GM Hikaru is also one of the most
cello?
famous.
I want to learn cello.
Cello. That's from the movie School of Rock. Shout out to Shraggy Braun. Saw that movie with you way back. Jack Black, one of my favorite actors of all time, in that one scene where he's teaching her how to play the bass. She's like, I only play a cello. He's like, well, here's a bass, and you turn it on its side, and cello, you've got a bass, which is one of my favorite things of all time. So he's wonderful.
That was a great movie.
He's Jewish, isn't he?
Probably. I was going to say a lot of the people are Jewish, but I also
know a lot of people are Jewish. I'm pretty sure Jack Black is Jewish. I feel like I heard that recently.
Jack Black.
And
Jewish.
You know who I also just found out might be Jewish that I said no way, but then I did the research on it, and I'm not totally sure if it's accurate. It seems like it's unclear. Elvis.
He was Jewish?
Elvis Presley put a Jewish star on his mother's grave. On the other side is a cross. And the other side is a Jewish star.
He identifies as an atheist.
But I think Elvis is on his mother's side is he had a Jewish grandmother, but it could be his mother's father's grandmother. Yeah. We don't necessarily know where that is.
So sad about Lisa Marie Presley, his daughter.
How did she pass? I don't even know how she passed away. How did she pass away?
I think she went into cardiac arrest. Like she just died. It wasn't an overdose or anything. It wasn't anything like that. It's really so sad. I think also her son died within a year ago or something, and I think that that takes a real toll on you and can really affect you. It's crazy. And she was just at the Grammys, I think it was a few weeks ago, right beforehand. So she was just a person, and everything. Then she just died.
Someone pointed out to me how you can never there's maybe one picture you could find on the internet of how Elvis looked at the end of his life before he died, because he looked horrible. And there's no pictures of him on the internet. If you type in Elvis at the end of his life, there's one picture of him looking really heavy set and kind of gross and greasy.
If he lived nowadays, he would just look like, Paula Abdul, where she just posted these photos where she looks like she looks like a 15-year-old girl on Instagram. I literally my friend Bracha in Israel. She's like, "Have you seen this photo of Paula Abdul?" I'm like, "Bracha, I don't really follow pop culture and that kind of stuff, or go on Instagram." She's like, "No, you need to see this." She sends me. I literally burst out laughing. She looks like she's 15. She literally just got into high school, and it's like, girl, you're in your 60s. I don't know if that's even just Photoshop. I think they just transplanted a fictional character on top of you. No.
What about Simon Cowell? Have you seen him?
No, Simon Cowell, that's not surgery. No, you can have all the work you want done, but you still don't look so she looked like a child. She was so airbrushed. Simon Cowell looks like a hot mess. He looks great if he was hit by a bus and they did reconstructive surgery that was a 2-day event, nationalized on television, and people are like, oh shit, is he going to have a normal face? We don't know. He was shot in the face with a gun, and he comes out oh my God, he almost looks normal. He didn't go through that, I'm assuming. So I think it's just oh shit.
I saw a great video of this guy was talking about it. He's because I didn't think it was real, and then I found the actual video of him, and I realized he actually looks like that. And he's it's almost like he went to a cremator, and he's I want you to put me in there and turn it on, and right when I start melting, shut it off. That's exactly where I want to be.
Oh my God, totally. Just a light toasting.
Right, just a light toast, a slight melt. Listen, he looks slim. He's lost weight. He just doesn't look healthy,
Not at all.
You can just tell when someone looks healthy versus like when they are unhealthy and trying very hard to appear healthy. And I always wonder, like, do they not realize how they look, or do they expect to not look as plastic when they're done? Is it false expectations from the plastic surgeon? Because who actually goes in, comes out, and like, are they happy with how they look? Because they all look like chickens. I don't understand what's going on.
That's the thing I always wonder. It's like you really look in the mirror and you're like, damn. Like, I love this. Like, and I'm not against, right? Like, I'm not against plastic surgery at all, right? But, like, I'm not against plastic surgery. I do Botox in my forehead. I've done lip filler, but I don't have it anymore. My lips just stayed bigger. I do Botox in my jawline. I'm not against any of it. You're doing all kinds of things.
Right? You're clearly not against any of it.
I'm not against any of it. I've only done this and that. I've done this. My face is completely transplanted. I got this from a donor. No, but I'm not against any of it. But I do, like, I've been doing Botox since I was 20 as preventative. And people always be like, 20? Like, you're so young. For me, it wasn't about, like, getting rid of wrinkles. I didn't think, oh my God, I'm 20 years old and I have wrinkles. To me, it was about preventing it by paralyzing the muscle. You're not contracting it, and therefore the permanent wrinkles won't happen. But
why
I have it?
Why prevent? Why the desire to prevent the inevitable?
Because it's not about, it is inevitable, but you can still prolong your youth. Like, it's only
no, you're not. You're not prolonging your youth. You're prolonging your appearance.
That's what I meant.
Nothing
else matters. But if you know where to buy that, though, really let me know, because I need that. I will sell a kidney or 5. We only have 2, though. I'll still find others. But, like, for me, it's like I've been taking care of my skin since I was in 8th grade. I've had a very strict skincare regimen. I stay out of the sun. I wear sunscreen every day, even in the winter. I'm very crazy about my skincare. So it's like, I take care of myself. I'm not going to wait till I'm some deflated balloon and then start trying to do work where I'm going to look like Simon Cowell. Once the balloon's deflated, you can try and make it look cute. It ain't looking cute. So I try to prevent everything as naturally as possible. And then for a little bit of, sprucing up, it's like, that's just in addition. It's just like, it's like when you get a haircut, even though I don't have anything in my hair now, when you get a haircut, it's like you don't just, walk outside. You want to put a little gel or a little hairspray. So I just put a little hairspray in my forehead.
I feel like everyone starts looking old eventually, and like, who wants to be the one person that still kind of looks?
Because there's some people you're like, whoa, you're 65, and there's some people that be like, whoa, you're 65. Like, you would think they're 90 or dead. So like, I feel like it's not just like everyone's going to age. Our bodies age. Our cell overturn decreases as we age. So all those things are inevitable. But you still, like, want to hold on to things. Like, you still want to make sure things are going well. I drink a lot of water. Like, that's part of it, too. Not just
right, health-wise.
It's also good for your skin. So, yeah. So, taking care of my skin, like, I don't think by putting on all these creams, I'm going to look like I'm 12, like Paula Abdul does. But I want to take care of myself, like, and hydrate my skin and make sure I look good and take care of it. Like, if you have chapped lips, you don't just go, oh, well, my lips are going to be chapped, and they're all, like, bleeding and gushing in the winter. You're like, well, you put chapstick on.
Someone did just send me a video. There's this guy. I don't know what he does. Is he a fitness model? He's this Asian American fitness model. He literally is in insanely good shape, but he's like in his mid 50s, and he looks like he actually looks like he's in his late 20s. It is. I've never seen anybody look that good. I didn't even believe in the video that he was that old. I guess, listen, it comes down to genetics to a certain extent, obviously. And it comes down to, and just because you live long also doesn't mean, obviously, that you necessarily look good when but I've seen people who are in their 80s and 90s who look great. There's someone who lives, who I know in a community not too far away where we go every once in a while, who is in his 70s and he looks like he's in like his 50s. And I'm like, what's your secret? And he's just like, Special K and a couple of shots of whiskey on the weekends,
Some people just have great genetics. Like, genetics definitely plays a role in it. It's not, everyone's definitely going to age differently and stuff.
Right. Shout out mom and dad for the solid genetics.
Yeah, well, we haven't aged that much yet, so we're still holding on, guys. So, like, don't, get too ahead of yourself. But I actually had a friend when I was working in, and I don't mean this in a racist way at all, when I was working in Bobby Brown in New York, I had a friend, Caroline, and she was Asian. And I remember saying, because when I found out how old she was, I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, you look freaking incredible. And she's like, that's just, that's because Asian don't raisin. I think, Asian don't raisin. And I was like, it took me a second, and I was like dying of laughter. I'm like,
I think there's
it's
truth
like
to
black
that.
toe crack. And
Right.
I was like, it's so interesting. I was like, so I just got the raw end of the deal by being white, so I'm just effed. And also because I'm like a stark white, it's like I'm more susceptible, like redness in my face,
For sure.
burning from the sun, all this stuff. So it's like,
There's so many people in Hollywood that I know, like Jamie Foxx looks incredible. Pharrell
people
Williams.
of color, that because that melanin in their skin is what's giving them the pigment, and that protects you from the sun and all this stuff. So they actually.
You look freaking incredible, and she's Asian. Don't reason. I think it's our reason. And I was like 22nd. And I was like, damn, laughter. And like,
Did you activate? You probably said the words seriously and
Oh
activated
my
Siri.
God. I
You
have
wonder
this
if
whole
they're
thing,
listening.
literally, like Siri is reading my whole thing. I am literally deceased, and I'm like, who just broke into my house? Like, shit, like what is going on?
Is that the British? Is that the UK accent?
Because you know why? Because I have a Alexa, which I can't say out loud, or my whole house would probably burn to the ground. But I have her. She gets things she gets things on track really well. Siri
Right.
is dumb as shit, and I love Apple, and a lot of it has
Really
to do with the fact
behind.
that
Siri's really behind.
because a lot of it has to do with Apple security, and security is a priority. Machine learning needs to learn to get better. So if it's not sharing recordings, if it's not saving your data to send to China and all this stuff, like Alexa and all these different devices, a lot of it's machine learning, so it understands what you like better, what you need better.
Right.
It targeted ads, it gets to know you better because it's gonna people have their privacy things, but it's also like, well, would you rather ads that are not pertaining to you? So because Siri's really dumb, I made her British, so this way at least I'm not as upset with her when she gets nothing right. But just like you saw when I literally didn't even call her, and she just started repeating everything I said. When I do say her name and I want something, she either completely ignores me or goes, sorry, I didn't understand that. So now that she has a British accent, I won't want to throw her across the room and jump out a window.
Are you less irritable with British people?
There's just there's a classiness to it. So
Yes,
it's like,
yes.
oh, okay. It's like if I was on the phone with customer service and it was some dumb Chad or whatever from Middle America, I'd be getting pissed off. If it was someone else who was actually, gonna, have an accent, like Australian accent, British accent, anything like that. It's like, okay. It's like
Australian accents are the best.
It's like if I was dating someone, if someone's like a 5, but they have a British accent or an Australian accent, it's like you just went up to an 8. Like you just gain 3 points because of the accent. So yeah, there's definitely power to it.
But I wonder how American accents. You ever see? There's a video of a couple of videos about what English sounds like to non-native English speakers or to non-English speakers, and it's it just sounds like sometimes when I'm talking, I'll think about our language or when I'm discussing languages, I think about certain words and how silly they must sound if you don't speak English. We're just so used to it, and it's probably such a strange sounding language.
I feel especially when I talk, because I talk so fast. Even during this podcast, I always have to try to talk slow, and I probably don't at all.
Me too, yeah.
I talk really, really fast, and also in Israel, people who are Israeli, even when they speak English, they're just I can't understand you. Or on WhatsApp, how you can speed it up. All my friends tell me that every time you send me a voice note, I have to put it back to 1 because I always speed it up for people. But you're already on 2 times speed.
I do that for you too. Yeah, I have to go back and change it.
Yeah, and just my mouth can't keep. I guess my brain is too fast. My mouth can't keep up.
Right. Yeah. I grew up. I always had a bad stutter. I still do. It's just not as bad as it once was. And so, I one of the main techniques with stutterers is obviously they speak too fast. The idea I think is that your mind is moving faster than your mouth can, which is very annoying with things. Because I remember as a kid having to reading. I was never smart in school, book smart. But my strongest thing always was reading, speaking English. That was always my strongest.
Totally, me too.
And whenever I had to read anything out loud, I would make mistakes because I'd be stuttering, and it was frustrating because I knew the words perfectly. And when I would go to yeshiva or to get interviewed for school, and I had to read Hebrew text, I used to have to tell the rabbi, I want to let you know in advance, I'm very good at reading, and if you hear me stumbling, it's not because I don't know the word, it's just because I stutter and I can't get it out, which is actually a pretty good way tips and tricks to avoid stuttering or to make yourself less nervous. Like when I publicly speak, a lot of times I'll open up, or I used to at least. Now I'm not as nervous, but I used to open up with like a joke or something by the way I stutter. So if I can't get a sentence out, just bear with me and we'll get through it. And then like there's a little laugh and everyone relaxes and then you ease into it, you slow down and you go. I never liked it. And like the job I work in now is all sales, it's calls, and I'm speaking to people on the phone all day. And it's so funny to me because as a kid, the idea of having to call someone, even if it's someone that I know, like a friend of mine, I would literally go into like panic mode because of having to speak and or if I had to lead prayers in school, they would ask me to lead the prayers, it'd be the chazan, I would be terrified. It's so strange. And like, I still get like an innate nervousness that I'll think like, why am I nervous? Like I have nothing to be nervous about, but I just feel like the stuttering just messed me up. I was also called out by it once by a teacher. I'm not going to say who it was, but he kind of made fun of me, but he made fun of me a little bit. I don't think he realized. It was also kind of
I'm not going to say he was a dick. He was a dick.
Yeah, it was a little bit uncalled for. But I still think about it, and that kind of messed me up, I would say a little bit. But there's a wonderful book that Mom sent to me a while back about this guy who also had a really bad stutter, but how he kind of made his way, learned how to speak and how to control it. It really comes down, a lot of it, to like nervousness and taking your time and just breathe. And, we don't know how to breathe anymore. Everyone's just...
I have no idea I've never been a good breather. But, like, I've never stuttered, so I've never had that struggle. But, like, when I was growing up, I wasn't able to say my R's until I was, like, at 9.5. I was in, like, speech therapy for years.
I couldn't either. I think you taught me how to, like, say my R's.
Yeah, well, it's just, like, one of the many things I've taught you. So just don't forget how much I've taught you over the years.
They also said I used to call myself Akiva Hayim Butt because I couldn't say a K sound or a cuss sound. I would say a tuss sound instead.
Yeah.
So Akiva Hayim Butt, that was my name, Akiva Chaim Bruck.
Which is very common. And not saying R's are really common. And it took me a long time. And we had a sister and her name starts with an R. And I used to always get insecure saying her name. And people used to always, when I was younger, people used to always make fun of it. Like it was a cute thing, but like to me, it wasn't cute. And it used to always bother me. And our last name is Bruck, hence,
right.
The name of the show and everything. And even to this day, and I could say my R's, I believe. Even to this day, when people ask me what my last name is, I say my last name, I get very insecure when I say my last name because I feel like I still don't say it right.
Right.
So I feel like there's certain things that just stay with you from it because it's from like that, like minor traumas. So it always sticks with you and you always remember those things.
Right. Anyone who's a stutterer knows there's always like certain like letters that will trigger a stutter, like in the beginning of a word or whatever it is at the end. So like an H or anything that begins with like a H or like an A sound, like Akiva. When people used to ask me my name, I couldn't get my name out. And when you first meet someone and they can't even tell you their name, the guy's like, my man, are you doing good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, sitting there trying to get it out. It was sad, but I'm learning. And I went to I had to go to speech therapy for years. So that was a blast.
Yeah. Right, me too. And you got to love America because it's not like any of that shit was paid for by the government and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I remember as a kid, we have to drive like 45 minutes out, which is funny because we grew up in Chicago, so that was considered a far drive. But
that was a road trip. That was
a serious road trip. When we used to drive to Wisconsin and we would go to Lake Geneva, what was it, an hour and 15 minutes away? We put pillows in the car. 30. We'd bring pillows.
Literally pillows in the car. It was like, are we there yet? Like, that was out of control. And it's like, looking back on it, it's like, literally, it's something. It's crazy. Yeah.
Even Six Flags, that was like a serious, to go to Six Flags an hour and a half away, 4 hour 45, that was like.
Because it was halfway to Lake Geneva. That was like, oh, geez, whoa.
Right.
Like, that's how we knew we were halfway there. We're like, oh my God, we're only halfway there because we passed Six Flags. Nowadays, like, geez, my God. Like people go on real road trips. We only did that once as a family. We went to Niagara Falls and we stopped off at Cleveland's on the way. That was
really
last
fun.
Time we ever did.
You stopped off in Cleveland?
I know.
Well, I wasn't saying it like Cleveland is terrible. I just don't remember stopping off in Cleveland. You obviously didn't like it too much.
I was.
I feel like it's just one of those places that, you kind of think like, what's going on in Cleveland?
Kind of like New Jersey, but that's where you live. But like we all say,
Right.
it's just a joke. It's like the TV show Hot in Cleveland with Betty White. It's one of my favorite shows. And they make a lot of self-deprecating Cleveland jokes.
But we were in Cleveland. I was in Cleveland for our cousin's wedding, and I thought it was a really nice city. I really liked the city area.
Was it their
cool.
first wedding?
Yeah.
Okay. We've had some of those in Cleveland.
I mean, we're from like like a random suburb in Illinois. I mean, Chicago's a big city, but like we were living in the middle of nowhere.
But like we did, like people always ask me, but do you live in like Chicago? You lived in a suburb, but technically we like I always say, well, we didn't live downtown. But we lived in Chicago. Like it's not like we lived in like a suburb.
20 minutes away from downtown without
Right.
traffic. 25-minute drive to Lakeshore Drive.
No.
We were in a pretty
part
good
of the Chicago
location. Yeah,
proper.
I remember I went on a summer program. I don't know if I said this before. I
Pretty
went on
good
a summer
location.
program.
There were still literally motels on the block, and it was no cheap neighborhood. There's like motels right there, and it's like, and they were not
Right.
like nice motels. They were like hourly motels, and for some reason that was normal.
There's also a murder on our block when we were kids. Do you remember that?
Yeah, except for do I remember that? I used to visit her house all the time. I knew her, and
You knew the girl who was murdered.
Akiva. Yeah. I used to go there all the time with one of our neighbors. All the time. I hang out with her on her doorstep. And then she started dating. Yeah. I guess you didn't know this. You were very young. Then she started dating this new guy. And she went off her rocker. And mom didn't want me to go over there anymore. And she gained a lot of weight. And they clearly were doing drugs or something. And that's apparently how they ended up getting murdered. And yeah.
It was like a drug thing.
One of her fingers were chopped off to take the ring. It was very scary. Yeah, I knew her. I used to go there all the time, hanging out with her outside.
I just remember being a kid
crazy.
and seeing all the ambulances and police on the block and coming down the street.
Crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, we lived in a pretty that area of Chicago is.
It was
very safe.
really safe. Besides that, one murder in the motels we were just.
Murders happen in
it was
in
literally
random places.
like utopia.
It was one random. Obviously, it was a freak thing. It wasn't like a random guy strolled in. Let me just come murder someone in this neighborhood. It was
Right, but it
specific
also
to
wasn't
that.
some crazy freak car accident where the car flipped over and went over a bridge and everything. It literally someone went into their house to
Right.
murder them and successfully did so.
Right.
It wasn't that much of a freak thing. It was just
Right.
what they were involved in.
What I was saying before. I remember when I was in a summer program, I met someone when I was in high school from New York. And when she looked at my driver's license, which said Illinois, obviously, and she looks at me and she goes, "You're from Illinois? I thought you live in Chicago." So I said, "There's a lot wrong with what you just said to me, and I'm not really sure how to respond. So I'm just gonna shut down."
When I was shipped off to boarding school in 9th grade, and it's funny you just brought this up because I literally was just telling my coworker today, when I went to boarding school in 9th grade, I had a roommate, and he's like, "Oh, where are you from?" He was actually from New Jersey. I'm like, "Oh, Chicago." He's like, "Oh, Chicago, Detroit?"
No way.
I'm like, well, first of all, those are both cities. Second of all, what? I remember it so vividly because I was just because he said it so serious, "Oh, Chicago, Detroit." What the fuck?
It's so strange is that as Jews, I feel like we're very connected and we're aware of communities in different places. And Chicago has a massive Orthodox Jewish community. How do you not know that? And Chicago's a huge city. How do you not know?
Because a lot of people say I'm from New York, I'm from New Jersey, I'm from Connecticut. No one really says I'm from Illinois.
Right.
Who the hell says that? I've never said I'm from. I grew up in Illinois.
Right.
What the hell? But I feel also because Chicago is one of the few normal cities. No, okay, I shouldn't say normal, but one of the few very populated, not farm area kind of cities in Illinois. As I dig myself into this hole,
It's not rural.
And it's not rural, which is
Rural.
my worst word because of the two R's, and it's already
Rural.
awkward as it is. So
Earl.
that is literally that to me. It's literally bungee jumping and shit.
You could just say Earl.
Right? My name is Earl.
Right.
Like that show back in the day. Yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
so I feel no one says I'm
Chicago's
from
a great
Illinois.
place. I love growing
Great
up there.
place.
The city is beautiful.
How many times people
And-
say, "Oh, the Bean"? I've never been to the freaking Bean. I've passed it. Who the hell's going there? It's not some sort of crazy site.
I went to
But
the
Navy
Bean.
Pier.
I've been to the Bean a couple times.
And was it life changing? Were you taking like pictures like, oh my God, the bean?
It is pretty cool. I remember some kids scratched his name into that, and they were like, it was like a manhunt for like this 11-year-old kid who scratched his name like Daniel into the bean.
God. Daniel, fucking Daniel.
like the FBI busts down the door, drills this kid down
right?
because he
Al Qaeda's on the
scratched his name.
list, but they're going after this 11-year-old.
Oh, you better believe. I mean, that's the same thing. The IRS, like we've said before, when they stocked up on tons of ammo, like there could be God knows what going on, but some random 21-year-old kid who's only paying taxes for the third time messes up his tax document. The IRS, you best believe, is smashing down that door to come get you.
Oh, they are getting you as
It's
fast
crazy.
as they can. Yeah.
Crazy. There's no room for mistake. It's just funny. Like you turn 18, congratulations. You can now start as an adult. You pay your own taxes. Oh, so if I mess up, you guys will help me work it out, right? No.
It's not even just that. It's not like, oh, here you are. This is how much you should pay in taxes. It is the most complicated thing where things are write-offs and this and that, and you have no choice but to get an accountant. And, blah, blah. Even these things like, you could do it on your own. It's so simple. TurboTax. You still have to save like all your receipts and go through all these things, and it's complicated. And some companies promise they're going to get you more back in your tax return. It's like they make it hard intentionally so you mess it up, so they make more money. Or you go to jail so they can take your money. So it's like, okay, it's a win-win. But don't worry, because they didn't investigate Bernie Madoff for a long-ass time. Don't know how that happened when the guy literally didn't even do one trade in that company.
Yeah, that whole situation is crazy.
Crazy.
But on that note, I think we're going to call it here.
Yeah.
But stay tuned for the next episode, God willing, either next episode or the episode after. We'll have our first guest. Should be exciting. Should be crazy. Should be filled with good things. And
and if you're on YouTube, then like and subscribe and all that stuff. Hit that bell.
I'm not sure if I've uploaded the last few episodes. I got to do that. I got to upload those episodes. We'll get those up and going. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You know where to find us.
All those
Instagram.
goodies.
Do we have an Instagram?
I opened one up. We haven't posted yet.
Okay. You open up an Instagram. Be our first
Follow us
follower.
and
Be our second follower. Follow us.
Be our
and stuff.
third if you're lucky.
And
Worst, as they say.
we'll catch everyone next week. Hope everyone's doing well. Sending a lot of love.
Oh, got it. Why did I just do that peace sign? That was so. I was like, early 2003. Like literally, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to go jump off the roof now because I cannot believe I just did that. Thank you very much.
We'll catch everyone next week. Take care.
I was just about to do it again.
There you go. We'll do it. We'll do it together. We'll do it together. Bye.
Bye.